Hey chess lovers, welcome back to the Chessyard. This is Dhairya Bagga, and I just wanted to show you this game that I played sometime today itself. Basically, it started off with me playing d4. I was playing as white. Uh, just a second, I just moved my camera here so that I can just play the buttons as well. Right, so I decided with d4, opponent goes with knight to f6, just trying to centralize. So basically, the idea is always to acquire the center, and also when you are developing the knight, you are, covering up the central squares which are important, defending the pawn as well. Opponent goes with e6 pawn. I generally try to play with bishop right away, and so there are a couple of options that you can go for. I prefer g5. Sometimes it triggers opponent to play h6, which is passive in the opening. I can also just go back on to f4 and then eventually to g3. That's the way I try to approach it. In the long run, if the opponent develops the bishop, tries to take and trade off, I get to take back from the h pawn, and my h file is opened up for the attack. That's how I'd like to go about. Opponent goes for d5, solidifying the center. Now I shut my diagonal by because I have already put my dark square bishop ahead. So now I can play pawn forward e3, solidifying my center. This bishop, which is generally the bad bishop for white, the light square one is the stronger one. I've taken it out of the pawn chain, and now this bishop is also ready to be developed to either of the squares. So there are three options for now. Opponent goes for the dark square bishop, playing it on to e7. And I just played, c3, just a typical London system kind of a setup, where you just put your pyramid in the center. Helpful, really. Uh, in the London, generally the bishop is not on to g5 but on to f4. That's the difference here. Open castles, and as soon as the open castles, there's always an opportunity that you are very clear that you want to attack on the king side, right? This is the area you can just start expanding the pawns straight away, or you can just simply develop your other minor pieces, which I went with knight to d2, knight b to d2 to be precise. Opponent tries to kick my bishop back. I bring it back onto h4. Again, both the options are there. I can just go back to even f4 as well, but I prefer h4 in this game. No particular logics, to be honest. Over there, opponent plays b6 with the idea of yanking out the bishop onto b6 eventually, and then I this long term potential towards a diagonal towards the king side when once I castle. I now develop my light square bishop. Again, computer calls it as an inaccuracy. I see it in a different way. It's again the long term attack towards the diagonal. Computer wants me to trade off my dark square bishop straight away. I like to keep that tension hanging over there, maintain that tension. Opponent goes, develops the bishop as expected. Now I go with queen to c2. Now, if you see, computer still suggesting me to just chop off the knight and maybe and then put this dark square bishop onto f6 for the for the opponent, and long term maybe it sees some value attacking on the queen side with that bishop, and that's not helpful because I'll as per the computer, and generally you will castle on the king side, so the bishop becomes kind of pointing in the wrong direction eventually. Opponent goes for c5, expecting me to maybe just take and just take back with the pawn and have more of a central control than what I would have if I trade off. So that's why generally I avoid trading off here, which I that's why I didn't. I just uh, went ahead with knight to e5, centralizing my knight. The idea is always to now bring the other knight to f3 so that both the knights are connected and you have a solid control in the center. Opponent goes back with the knight. Now I have a decision to make. I can either trade the knight or I can just bring back my bishop. Again, defending my knight with my bishop so that if the knight takes, I don't take with the pawn and ruin my pawn structure. Central control is always important, as you know. So I took the bishop now, which is again the best move as well. Dark square bishop is an important piece for the opponent, and I took it. Opponent takes back with the queen, no other option there. Now I develop my other knight. Computer is also suggesting that you can go for f4, so that which solidifies the the reinforces the knight. It's also important to note that if let's say I just go ahead with f4 and opponent takes, now I can just simply take, and this pawn structure, although I have double pawns in the center, is not that bad. The problem which could be in future is that the opponent can give a check. You can simply save this. Opponent would go back, and you just can castle. Yeah, that's kind of a structure which maybe computer wants. Again, this leaves the e pawn hanging if you're not you quite sure about the same. So I took, opponent takes back, and I just went ahead with knight to f3 instead, just trying to solidify my knights over there. Opponent develops the other knight, so I decided to take now, because then otherwise, the same problem of double pawns in the center happens. So I took. I could have taken the other knight as well, but then again, not much of a difference from my perspective, so I didn't. Opponent takes back with the queen, no other option there. Now I try to pin the queen, pin the knight for, because it's the queen is behind it. Opponent just tries to remove that pin. Now I have again a decision to make. I can trade or I can just bring back my bishop. I decided to take here. My idea was after the opponent takes, I can just plant my knight again, which I've been trying to do. Opponent then brings the bishop to b5, which is a good diagonal because that stops me from castling straight away. So I can't castle. Opponent has already castled, and that's why slight advantage towards the black in the eval bar. So I just went with b3. Now for b3, my idea was then eventually I can play c4 and then probably have some trades in the center. Maybe just take with the knight eventually, and attack the queen as well. So yeah, that's what my idea was here. Opponent is saying, sorry, computer is suggesting me to just bring back my knight so that I can probably prepare to castle, give away my knight for the bishop. Logical plan, but I just wanted to shut this diagonal completely, so I went with b3 with the ideas of c4 eventually. Opponent kicks my knight straight away. Now I don't have much of an option. I have to move the knight. Knight comes back to f3. uh, I didn't find g6 to be a helpful square, and if I come back to g4, then I can be just pushed back with another pawn, and then maybe my knight is also trapped. Opponent goes for e5 in this position. Again, I have a lot of options here. I can trade both the sides, and if I just trade off again the central pawns, my the opponent gets a stronger center. So I didn't, and I went with c4, which was my initial plan to have this decision made by the opponent to take. Opponent decides not to take and brings the bishop back. In this position, I have again two options now. Maybe just to take and let the bishop be centralized again, or just attack the queen by taking the pawn. So I did this time. Opponent takes back. To be noticed, I cannot take the pawn now because my queen would be hanging. It's not defended. So now I need to either defend my queen or just move it out of the harm's way. If I move it, the other problem could be that the opponent takes, I take back, and then queen can take back if the square is not defended by my queen. So I first castled. I thought, okay, if the opponent takes, I can simply take with the queen, maybe if required. Opponent now brings back the rook onto c8. The idea is again to double up all the forces on this file. I also went with rook a to c1. I computer testing moved the f rook. I j- Also I thought that the rook on a1 is not doing anything, so rather make it utilize. Opponent brings back the bishop. Now I can take, or I can simply just went ahead with the queen to g6. My idea was simple. I will go with knight to h4, knight to f5, and then probably take one of the pawns or go for a checkmating idea on to g7 with my knight also being there. It's a slow plan, but generally the opponents at my rating level are not are generally get pressurized looking at this, that the queen is around the king, and they don't feel safe enough. And that's what happens. Opponent gets back the queen, just trying to be around the king to have that safety net. I still went ahead with my knight to h4 again. It's the best move in this situation as well, because once I place, I am attacking the queen as well. opponent tries to trade off the queen, and I just brought back my queen. Now, computer is saying again it's an inaccuracy. I should not bring back my queen, but trade off. Trading off didn't make sense to me here, because if I do, opponent will take back again. These pawns are, looking at each other with the rook behind. This bishop is also strong towards my king, so I didn't find it comfortable. Rather, I just bring back my queen. Opponent takes back here, and I take back with the rook. Now, if you see, suddenly the eval bar changed from 1.4 to 3.3. 1.4 doesn't matter, yeah, at my rating levels. No Magnus Carlsen here. But yeah, 3.3 is a huge difference. And I failed to see this at that point in time. I generally thought that, okay, opponent will take, I can take back with the pawn maybe, and things are fine. But I missed the part that the bishop can go to h6, a6. If the bishop goes to a6, that's a big skewer and becomes very difficult to play on from here. Opponent also misses that and tries to attack me with the rook, attacking the queen directly, which gives me that space of, just moving the queen out of the harm's way, doubling up the on the c file as well. Now opponent sees that move of moving the bishop, but then I can now attack the opponent's queen as well. So opponent tries to put the queen onto h5. So opponent thought that, they can take my knight, my rook is under attack. So yeah, that's a good move, and it is. Uh, I went with knight to, h6, sorry, g6. Sorry, bad with the annotations for now, out of practice basically. So I went with knight to g6. My idea was, okay, if the opponent takes my rook, I will take their rook. If the opponent then takes back my knight, I will also take back, and things look fine. Uh, so that was my plan. Opponent takes, and I also took without even, evaluating that I should give a check or not. Although giving a check was not that helpful as well, because opponent will just move the king. Computer is suggesting that, okay, you do that, and, maybe just uh, play a drawing line. Just repeat and, draw. But of course, I didn't see that. I was in a hurry as well. It's a blitz, 3 minute blitz. So I just took the rook over there. Uh, and in this position, opponent plays rook to d one. The idea being, this is defended, and once the bishop is moved, it's a check. It looks scary, right? But opponent missed out on something which I had seen. And thanks to, I actually saw this in a second of time, because I have been solving a lot of puzzles. So it's a mate into. Feel free to pause the video and guess, and I'll proceed. So basically, you go with queen to h7. The queen is defended with the knight, so opponent has to move the king. The king cannot go to f7 because my rook is already on the seventh rank. So opponent has to take the knight, and which is followed by a checkmate. So yeah, it worked out well eventually. I guess it is important to create some threats, which, in the game I did by moving my queen towards the king as well, uh, which was actually here when the opponent decided to just bring back his queen, and, I distracted basically my opponent into something different which they were not aiming for. A lesson for me was to not miss out on these kind of diagonals where, the bishop can be very vicious. So that was a learning for me. But yeah, overall, I think good game. Life is not simple, and so is not chess. Just need to, hang in there for longer duration, and things work out, and they did in this game at least. I hope you enjoyed and there was something to learn from it. If you did, please do like and subscribe to the channel. Again, thanks for watching, and see you tomorrow. Take care. Bye bye.